Howdy, folks. So today we have a guest. I've changed my jacket because it was itchy. Yeah. Okay, so we have a guest who's just gonna chill. Half in frame. We'll see if I can nudge him so he's entirely in frame. Here you go. Yeah, how's that? Okay. Perhaps. Oh, we have disturbed the cat. Alright, well, what is the data set? I know some of this is going to be like, really? But I want to at least cover it so that we're all on the same page. Alright, so here's some just common terminology that we are going to be using. So each row is an observation, and each column is a variable. And I'm showing you this in a Tibble, which is kind of like a cleaned up data frame, but it's just a slightly different way to structure your data. But the idea is still the same. And each row is essentially people or individual pieces of the same person unit. So here's one row. We have Luke Skywalker. His height is 172 centimeters. He weighs 72 kilos. His name is Luke. His hair color is blonde. His birth year is 19. He's in the films Empire Strikes Back, Revenge of the Sith, Return of the Jedi, A New Hope, The Force Awakens, couple others. We don't speak about those. His sex is male. His gender is masculine. This is just like one person in the data set. And he's flown the X-Wing in the Imperial Shuttle. So what's in this data set? Let's take a peek. So here we're using the glimpse function. And it is literally just giving us a sneak peek of a couple people in here. We got Luke, we got C-3PO, we got R2-D2, we got some Darth, probably Vader, by looking at the homeworlds. But we're just taking a peek. We're not getting a full kit and caboodle. But it's enough to like have some sense. But other big important things to figure out are how many rows and columns each data set has. What does each row represent? What does each column represent? Kind of get a little more information about the data set by putting question mark and then the data set, and it should pull up the R documentation. It should. Sometimes it does not. So we can summon a couple of really straightforward functions. There we go. Super graceful. I know. Okay, so n row is a function, and it literally tells you the number of rows of your data set. Here we have 87. Number of columns is n-col. N-column. Often these are pretty intuitively named in hindsight. Yeah, so it tells us that we've got 14 columns. We can grab both of those at once. It's row by column using the dim function, dimension, and it'll spit out 87 rows and 14. Okay, so let's poke around in there. I know I did this with the height one, but I want to just show you again with a different data set so that you see that the process isn't like the same each time. So how would you describe the relationship between mass and height in Star Wars characters? Like, what other variables could we use to understand data points that don't follow a basic trend? Like this, who's this dot here that's not super tall but super heavy? Well, we can kind of crawl in. I had some guesses, but I mainly have guesses because I already made the slides. So, for the audience at home, pause and think. Who is huge but not so tall? feel free to pause and ponder. One nice thing about being familiar with a data set, like the broad theory, is you can catch things that like are surprises. I mean, Jabba's not really a surprise because he's huge, but not so tall. And so the question is like, what do we count him as? So let's actually plot these. So I had essentially, so this plot, here's the code. Ta-da! Where we've assigned our data set. I've mapped them out a little here. So data equals Star Wars. So that we're working with the Star Wars data set. We're mapping it. So the kind of key elements, the key variables we want to play with are height on the x-axis and mass on the y-axis. And then to like look and untangle those key pieces, we want to throw in some scatter plot, a scatter plot. So we just add in plus geom for geometry, point. So it's that like second layer up. And then we throw on some labels. We just add them on. Like that's kind of the basic logic here. Now, when you do this, you're going to get this annoying error code over and over again, where it removes some rows with missing values. I'm going to suppress this. Yeah. So I'll suppress this. But each time you look at a function like this, I've kind of already walked you through this, but here are the questions you should ask yourself. Like, what are the functions doing in the plot? As I walked you through already. I might zip up to this line. So what's the date? So like, what's the data being plotted? That's the first one. What variables map onto the features, the aesthetics that we're going to be plotting? That's what the mapping is. The big ideas. And then we like kind of can move ahead and be like, so what's the morning mean? We're going to suppress this because I literally don't have the space on the slides. But it's always good to know what the warning is for. Essentially, this means that 28 rows of our data are either missing height or missing something. Likely height or weight. So that was your kind of like backwards introduction to ggplot. But I want to crawl more deeply into ggplot. Because I kind of hinted at this, but let's like actually talk about it. So ggplot is the main function of ggplot2, the grammar of graphics. Plots in ggplot are layered, just like grammar of graphics. And there's tons of documentation and code on this. I encourage you to like at least take a glance. You're not going to know all of it. Like everybody has to look this stuff up. That's why like we include documentation so that we can accept that we will forget many things and come back to them later. But basically, here's the common structure. Data, you plop in your data set. Mapping are the X and Y variables that you want to focus on. You can add more later. And then the various geometric pieces that you want to move, like funnel those mapping pieces into. And all the other options are various layers above and beyond that. But it's like, not a cake, but parfait. So that's where we're going to kind of little bit of wrap up. That was your like teaser preview. And I'll see you later. We may have a guest. I may wear another jacket. Or I may just kind of plow ahead. I have to decide in the next little bit. I think I'm going to plow ahead. So, you're welcome to come along, but you don't have to.